in the right way that can hinder your progress. How many of you can understand and relate to that kind of sentiment, right?
Yeah.
So as women, I think that we already have a lot that we need to compensate for, because it's almost like you have to work harder or do more to get the same opportunity, to get even a portion of the same amount of respect or credence. And so you don't want to do things that are within your power that undermines what you're trying to accomplish. And I think part of that has to do with the way that you present yourself. So I had a conversation recently with someone, and I was saying, I think that while it's fine that, you wear short skirts or tight skirts or low cut blouses when you're going out with your friends, you may want to rethink that when you're going into the boardroom and you're the only woman at the table. Because what you don't want to do is distract from what it is that you're trying to present, because you've done your homework, you've done the research, you've written the briefing, you've done the PowerPoint or the Prezi, you put the work into preparing this presentation, and you want people to listen to what it is you have to say and not be distracted by, oh my gosh, look at her breasts. Oh my goodness, that skirt is so tight. Follow what I'm saying? So you want them to focus on what it is that you're bringing to the table, not so much on your package. At the same time, you do want to be packaged in such a way that they do take you seriously and can say, wow, she's polished, she's professional, she's on point. She must know what she's talking about because she looks like she knows what she's talking about. And then you come in and you hit them right between the eyes with the fact that you do know what you're talking about. So the two need to go hand in hand. And so to that end, when you're blessed with curves, and I say blessed with curves because I believe curves are beautiful. And I think, especially in this culture, everyone seems to want curves, right? They're getting butt injections, they're wearing push-up bras, they're doing all this stuff because they want the curves. So if you're blessed with the curves, don't, lament the fact that you've got what God gave you. He gave it to you for a reason. It's beautiful. You just need to know how to work with what you got. I think a big thing for women is we tend to focus on what we don't have or what we don't like about what we have. It's much easier to stand in front of the mirror and point out what you don't like than it is to stand in front of the mirror and say, wow, I like what I see. Can anybody identify with that? That when you stand in front of the mirror, sometimes you more often pick out, man, I wish I had this, or man, I can't stand that, right? So we tend to go to the negative first. And I think we need to change. We need to have a paradigm shift. Excuse me. And so the first step, I think, is embracing the body that you have. Saying, I love my body. This is the size that I am right now. Maybe in high school, I was a size 4 or 6, and maybe now I'm a size 14, and that's okay, right? And so you have to learn to say that's okay, and then figure out, okay, what am I going to do with this body that I have today? Because this is the body that I have today. You can't, get caught up in what you wish you had or what you're trying to work toward. So there are things that you do to help you accentuate the positive, so to speak. Now, when I say accentuate, there's a difference between accentuating and how can I say it? Overemphasizing. Y'all follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those of you who are new to Blab, if you are following what Jody is saying and you want to give her props, you double click on those high fives. High fives on the bottom corner. I'm sure some of you are thinking, I know that already, but if some of you don't, now you do. So thank you. And for those of you who just joined us, thank you and welcome. Currently speaking is Miss Jody Johnson, who owns Agape Tour Productions. So she is talking with us now about how to dress our bodies, particularly if we have curves. So please continue.
Okay. So, I think the basics is, one, we just said, learn to embrace the body that you have now. Okay. Don't get so focused on what you used to look like before you had your kids, or the body that you're hoping to get by the time the summer comes and you want to wear that bikini or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's January 7th. When you look in the mirror, you are a size. Let's just go ahead and embrace the reality, right? So embrace what you got now. Learn how to work with what you got now. So if you have, okay, so the second step, I'm getting ahead of myself. Second step is to recognize your body type. And I think that most people don't know their body type. And so they run into frustrations when they go to get dressed because they put on things that they see on social media. Somebody had it on, or a model has it on in a magazine, or you saw somebody else do it and it looks great on her. And then when you go to put it on, you're like, it didn't look like that on her. And the reason is because we're all shaped differently. So although I can be a size 6 and my body type is pear shaped, I'm different than a size 6 who is an hourglass, or a size 6 that is an inverted triangle, or a size 6 that's an athletic build. So there are things that work for my body shape that won't work for somebody else's body shape, even though we're the same size. And I think people get caught up in the size. What size are you? That's only the first step, but it's the body type that you need to pay attention to. And then once you figure out what your body type is, then you figure out what the pieces are to help you get the silhouette that you're going for. So if you are a person who has, your ample bosom, but your hips are smaller and narrower, what you want to do is, the aim overall is to go for proportion and balance. So if your upper body is wider than your lower body, the lower part of your body, then you want to wear things that kind of even out that proportion. So wide leg pants or A-line skirts or things like that. So at the end of the day, you look proportioned. That's the principle. Okay. If you have wider hips and smaller up on top, you want to stick with the A-line skirt. You don't want to wear the body hugging, curving, hip hugging things that accentuate the fact that you have hips and bottom and those things, especially not at work. Work is not the place to go for sexy. Okay. That's just my opinion. Somebody else may say something different, but I feel like you need to focus on the main thing is you, building credibility and having people take you seriously, and not when they talk about you, they want to talk about you and say, she's on point. She knows her information. She's solid. She's thorough. She's ... They don't want to say, oh, the girl with the big breasts, or the girl with the big behind. That's not what you want them to associate with you. You understand the difference?
Want to say the woman who did that great presentation yesterday.
Absolutely.
The woman whose Excel spreadsheets are the best at the office.
Absolutely. So you don't want to undermine your work by you wearing the wrong stuff to the office, because there's a time and a place for everything. And what you wear after work is what you wear after work. When you're at work, be about business, and especially in your presentation. So embrace the body that you have. It's okay to be a size 14, nothing wrong with it. I do fashion shows, have been doing fashion shows for a while, and I put women in my shows that range from size 2 to size 16, size 18. It doesn't make a difference to me, because I recognize that beauty comes in all shapes, sizes, and packages. And I want the women who are in the audience to see a reflection of themselves on the runway and say, wow, she walks with such confidence and pride, and she's thick like me. She has curves like me, and own it. That is the thing that you're going for. You want to own it when you walk into the room, and you don't want your clothes to distract from that.
One thing that I will say about Latinas in particular, we're seeing more and more Latinas in popular culture that are curvy.
Yes.
And yes, they're being looked at as sexy or what have you, but they're still kind of putting out a vibe that isn't vulgar or anything like that. So Jennifer Lopez, Sofia Vergara, Gina Rodriguez, these are not skinny women in the traditional sense of what Hollywood should look like. So we're getting there, right? Drips and drabs, we're getting there.
Yes.
And before you continue, Jody, I do want to introduce Chantel Morel. Thank you for joining us. She's also a Syracuse alum. Jody is a Syracuse alum, Chantel. And Chantel is working for Latina Magazine. And tell me your title real quick.
I'm the beauty and fashion assistant.
Okay, great. So congratulations on that. She's also been with Cosmo for Latinas, and she was doing some really great work with them. So Jody, please continue. I know you have a little top 5 or top 10 list that you want to share with us, and then we'll keep moving.
Okay. There are some questions about whether or not you should wear patterns or solids. So I think going back to the concept of knowing your body type and going for the proportion, you want to Stick with solids in the areas that you don't want to emphasize. Okay, so if you are someone who has abundance on the bottom and maybe not so much on the top, stick with solids on the bottom and draw the attention upward. So like ruffles and patterns and different things like that up top. And then that way that helps to create the illusion of proportion. And then the reverse. If you're busty up top, don't go for a lot of patterns and busyness up there because you already got stuff to get the attention up there, right? So keep that nice and neutral and solid, and then you can, mix it up on the bottom and get a little flare down below. So that's just the quick and dirty. And on my Twitter page, on my Facebook page, there are resources that give you more detail and give you the specific do's and the don'ts. And there are visuals to say, this is what an hourglass looks like. This is what an inverted triangle body shape looks like. This is what a pear shape looks like. This is what an apple looks like. Apple meaning that you're a little bit rounder in the midsection and stuff like that. So, there's all kinds of tricks to help you work the body that you have. And I just think the general rule of thumb is you want to keep it classy, not sexy at work. Classy. That's where you get the respect, because sexy can easily become trashy if it's not done properly. There's like a fine line, I would hope that every woman has a full body mirror in her home, a full length mirror that you can see what you look like from head to toe, and definitely use it.
I didn't have one for about 6 years. I just didn't. I couldn't.
Why?
Because I didn't want to look at myself. I didn't. I just didn't feel good about the skin I was in. And I was very confident about everything else. Work, career, family, things of that nature. But the physical, I was like, I just need to look from here up. Everything else is neat and ironed and clean. We can just go from there.
Right.
So, I wasn't. Tell me your URL so I can type it in so people can know it. You said to look at your website or your blog?
Yep, I have, I've got I've got quite a bit going on. So there's website, there's blog, there's Twitter page, there's Facebook page. So Twitter, I don't know if you can see the logo here under my name is @Agape Couture Pro. And if you go right there, it's right there on the homepage as a resource. Take some time and read it. And then you got to stand in front of the mirror. You're going to have to do some work. You're going to have to do exactly what she said she didn't like doing. And that's standing in front of the mirror and looking at yourself and assessing, what is it that works? Well, what do I look like? What is my body shape? Am I wider on the bottom than I am on the top? And you figure it out. And once you figure it, that is the first step. Once you figure it out, then you can go about realizing, okay, I need to stay away from this type of clothing. Like I can't wear skinny jeans if I am super, super hippie. That really shouldn't be happening. Okay. You want to go with wide leg pants if you are hippie or have, more generosity in your thighs and your bottom. You want to go with ruching. You want to wear wrap dresses if you are curvy. They're very flattering for curves, wrap dresses. If you are straight up and down maybe and you don't have curves, ruching helps give you that definition and give the illusion of curves. If you're smaller on the bottom and you want to give the appearance of having a little bit more on the bottom, then you can go with peplum styles. That works as well. So there's lots of things that you can do on the page. Like I said, is like the cheat sheet. Yeah. That you can print out and you have it and refer to it, study it, get to know it. And because I know other people want to be able to speak too, so I don't want to monopolize the conversation. If you are endowed with a curvy hourglass shape, don't wear big baggy clothes that hide that. There's nothing wrong with having curves. If you got a beautiful figure, work it. Everybody's trying to get what you have. Work what you have. Just do it tastefully. Not super, super tight, but fitted. There's a difference.
Okay. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Chantel, what is Latina Magazine saying? What should we be doing? Tell us a little bit about, let's get a little to the trendy piece, because one of the things that Jody said to me yesterday, we did a little dry run, was that it's okay to want to be fashionable, right? That is perfectly acceptable in a professional setting. Just because you're not accentuating your cleavage in a way that's sexy doesn't mean you can't be fashionable. Yeah. So what are the trends? What is Latina Magazine saying? I know you have a limited time, so thank you.
Yeah, I have time. So, I mean, that's very true. Luckily, in my work setting, it's very relaxed. I mean, there'll be days where even like if there's not a lot going on and we know we're in the office all day where there are people in jeans. But to be fashionable is very important, even in the industry. Like, I know when I first went for my interview, I wasn't going to go in an all button up, gray suit, gray and black. Because, I wasn't going for a job in Chase or a financial banker. I was going to work in the magazine industry and fashion and beauty. So, of course, there are ways, what I did was I added a pop of color with like a turquoise blazer with like simple fitted black pants, a fitted top. I'm also a busty girl, and that's always an issue with me with like button-up blouses. And it's always the struggle because I'll have to get them like a size or two bigger because like the shirts will fit. But then, of course, there's that awkward gap in the middle where it's not professional at all. And, that is not what you want to prove. So it's definitely very important when you're busty, to know, like, to not show off, like she says, classy, not sexy. But, adding a pop of color, putting your own personality into your style is very important as well. But there are different settings to do it. There's a way you can add some pizzazz to a professional setting or if you're going out.
So I want to just highlight something that you said that actually goes to the very core of what I'm trying to do here in terms of executive presence, commanding the room, how you enter a room and your appearance. And that is that you dressed a certain way for your interview because of what industry you were going into. And I just typed it in the sidebar, know your industry, do your research on the company's culture. Yeah. So if you're going into higher education, you need to put on that gray suit or that black suit. You need to keep it simple, professional, very traditional. If you're going into the magazine industry, like Chantel said, you don't necessarily have to go that conservative route. They want to see that you know the trends. They want to see that you understand fashion, that you understand your body. And I think that's, if you're going into the startup industry, they might think you're a little too stuffy if you come in the way you would come into a higher ed interview. So it is so crucial for you to understand your industry. Do your research. Don't just walk in there thinking, oh, I'm going to be a creative graphic designer at a higher ed institution, and think you could walk in like a graphic designer, in your jeans and, kind of, I'm being somewhat stereotypical, but even creatives have told me this is how we dress. So I'm going by what even that industry has shared with me. Mm-hmm. So that is on point, that you just have to know the industry you're going into.
Absolutely.
Lady, hi.
Hello.
So one of the things that I would love for you to do, if you as much as you feel comfortable doing, is sharing with everyone your kind of transformation. So Lady Santos, she's a graduate student at the University at Albany studying higher education. She wants to get into the world of higher ed. She's in Res Life right now. And we recently saw each other during a holiday dinner, and she was talking about how she went from relaxing her hair to going completely natural. The big chop, is that what we're calling it?
Right.
She chopped it off. She chopped off and let all of the natural, as you can see, it's beautiful, grow in. And I want her to tell a little bit of that story and that transformation. And then again, as comfortable as you feel, we kind of talked a little bit about the microaggressions that you felt around the hair. And I know Tyann has a story or two. So before you do that, let me do some station identification. I want to welcome everyone who recently just got on. This is Curves and Curls in the Workplace. My name is Roseanne Santos, and I'm the founder of Latinas in Higher Education. And I am hoping that women will get out of this some really good tips, tricks, best practices for dressing their bodies, which is what Jody and Chantel did, and also for dressing their curls. Can curls ever be sloppy? I don't know. There's disagreement, there's different agreement there. And then also an underlying thread that I'm hoping will come out of this conversation is, how do we then address any microaggressions that come our way around our curves and curls in the workplace? And I say that because I think we can look at this as a position of privilege where we can actually take the opportunity to educate someone else about, no, it's not okay for you to touch my hair just because you want to see if it's soft or not. You know, how do we do that tactfully? And I think that maybe we can get some best practices, some good tips for those in the audience to do that in their workplace. Because I think if you come at someone at work in a negative way, when they offend you, it could look bad on they could turn it around on you and say, oh, I was just trying to compliment her on her hair. I wanted to touch it. And if we interpret it a certain way, it's kind of like all of a sudden it's back on us, you know? So I want us to learn tactics and techniques for being tactful and teaching the ignorant, right? Because in the end, unfortunately, it falls back on us to teach those that don't know anything about us, right? And I want all of us to be successful. So, Lady, take it away.
Absolutely. As you all know, my name is Lady, and
there's no relation, unfortunately.
Yes,
right?
no. My name is Lady Santos, but there's no relation between Roseanne and I. But basically, I went natural. I went natural because before I used to, I was addicted to getting my hair blow dried, and it's called getting your hair Dominican styled. And what Dominican style means in our world is that it's straight, it's completely straight. They get it to the point that it looks like your hair could never even get curly. So when I decided to go natural, when I decided to do the big chop, I was already tired with how my hair was looking. I was always unhappy with my hair. When I would leave it straight, it would be very damaged at the bottom, because once you blow dry your hair a lot, your hair starts falling a lot, and the bottom part of your hair starts stripping. So for me, I knew that my hair wasn't healthy. I knew that I wanted so much more from my hair, and I wanted to see how my hair looked without that, doing that process of blow drying it in the Dominican hair salon. So when I decided to do that, I did not get any support from my family, unfortunately. My dad still is very upset that my hair looks like this. He feels that it's something that I shouldn't do, that it's not professional, that I am a woman that is a professional woman in the workplace. Why does my hair look like that? So when I go home to visit my family every time, I always get a lot of backlashes. And it's something that I've had to deal with for some time. I knew that I wanted to go natural. I knew that I wanted to do the big chop, but it's very difficult coming home and, receiving that backlash from my family. So it's difficult. It's a very difficult thing to deal with, even because they feel that my hair needs to be longer. They're like, why isn't your hair long enough? You've had this hair like this for a year. Why doesn't it look soft and long and how it's supposed to look? So people have this previously conduced idea of how the natural hair should look like, that it should be soft, long, and that the curls should be completely defined. There are parts of my hair that are not completely curly. They're just frizzy. They're just frizz. And my dad feels that it needs to be straightened. He says that my hair should not look like this, that it's not something that we grew up with, that we need to look proper and whitened. We need to look like we deserve to be there. So he feels like I'm going to get a lot of backlash in the workplace because my hair looks like this. So for him, it's more about protecting me, but at the same time, he hates it completely. My mother doesn't really comment about it because she feels that if I like it this way, this is how it should be. But even back home, there's a rumor going around about me within my family that are saying, like, look, ella parece una loca. That means she looks like a crazy girl. Like, look at her pajon. Like, look at her crazy frizz ball. And again, it's something that I have to deal with internally with my family. In the workplace, it's different. In the workplace, people feel they feel like they want to ask me questions as to how it looks. How did I get it this way? And I just simply have to say, this is how it grows on my head. This is how my hair grows on my head. And, interesting to hear that question. I don't know how to answer it. I simply just say, I wet my hair just like you do. And it just comes out this way. This is how
I love that response, because you're using almost humor, subtle humor, to kind of be like, duh, It grows this way. I don't do little hair plugs or anything. This is just my genetic makeup. It's physiological. It's biological. So I love that response.
Absolutely. And I always say it with a smile. I always use that as an invitation to teach others about what my hair, why my hair looks this way, or why am I so light skinned with such curly hair. And it always opens up that conversation. And I always invite that. I always try to teach and tell them, oh, this is how my hair used to look like before. And because this is the process that I used to go through to get it this way. But now it's different. Now I just wet it and it just stays like this. And, I always speak to Tyann, and she mentions to me that I was part of the reason why she decided to keep it natural as well. And her curls are softer and they're more accepted in the workplace because, as you can see, her curls are softer than mine. I touched it without permission. You saw that? And then my hair is it's tight. My curls are tighter. So they're less likely to be accepted in the workplace.
Do you think that that's just that people have a stereotype that yours looks a little bit more like a traditional afro, whereas Tyann's looks like it falls kind of in those spirally pretty curls that people buy curling irons to do? I mean,
it's funny though, because I'm actually Ecuadorian. So in the Ecuadorian culture, we have very straight Indian hair. And so I was raised I'm actually the only one in my family that has curly hair. So when I was growing up, my mom used to buzz cut me. And, it used to be like, they used to call me samba fea. So it was almost like ugly curl girl, so I used to have to walk around like that. And as I grew older, and I think that created a very big complex of what curly hair looked like. And I think as you assimilated into the workforce and being first generation, you kind of try to follow the pattern of what goes to American society and what will make you successful in that area. So, I follow the tradition as regular Latina girls do, and a lot of Dominicans and Puerto Ricans taught me how to straighten their hair. But I think I got exhausted with the process too, because it was just so extenuating. And it went to a point where we started doing quarantine treatments, and then we started losing our curls. And then I saw my friends have like half curly hair and half dead hair because it just didn't grow out naturally in that sense. And it was funny because as me and Lady were driving over to my house, we were talking about how much more trouble it was and how much more uncomfortable you felt with that straight hair because you couldn't dance, you couldn't go doing exercises because then the frizz itself, like, you felt like you were not as pretty as you were supposed to be. And so it's funny, as I cut my hair now and I left it long curly for a long time, the women in my family in the Ecuadorian culture love it because they try to perm their hairs. But the men would be like, oh, now you're walking the ground like you were that kid, and they didn't want to embrace it anymore. But I would say that the lack of worry of maintenance for it no more, and I could just be free with it, is very liberating. But when I think people in my job see me without the gel in my hair and they see the natural curl that's very Afro-y, because my grandfather's Afro-Ecuadorian, it is an Afro. And they're like, oh, where did that hair come from? Where's those pretty curls that you do have? And I said, oh, gel. And it's called like that. It's like there's a certain way you would go to work at, and there's a certain way you would look outside in the urban atmosphere. And I think that when I'm just myself, like you said, now in the professional place, I don't mind having it with no chemicals, no substance, because that's who I am, Right. But you have to be conformed with, this is who you are, this is how the hair sits naturally. But even, I think when me and Lady first started talking about our curls, we were like, how did you get it that way? And I'm like, well, I just wash it and I put some curls. And then I met, other hermanas that have a little bit more coarse hair than I do. And I didn't even realize that they have to straighten it to get it cut. And that was just a whole different process for me to understand too. And I was like, wow, you have to straighten your hair just to get the even curl cut. And I think that becomes just the different variations that we have with our type of hairs. But I think that the lash with it is definitely very different with the South American and Central American culture, because this is just not normal to them. And then it becomes just, you have black in you, and then it becomes a little bit of a stigmatized with that culture.
Wow. That's so fascinating. And just as a side note, Tyann used the term hermanas, that means sisters.
I'm sorry.
Some of us happen to be sorority sisters. So I just wanted to put that out there because I know everybody doesn't speak Spanish.
I figured that one out, though. That one I figured out.
I appreciate Chantel, Lady, Tyann, and myself are all part of the same organization.
Okay.
So do you guys have any examples of maybe something negative that happened in the workplace and maybe how you handled it that we could kind of take away as some advice?
I would say in my workplace, like LP in Albany, New York, I think we deal with a lot of Anglo-Saxon and white people. And sometimes I've been in a lot of forums where I would be just myself with another black lady with me there. And, we get all these compliments, with they tell colleagues, oh, I like your purse, I like your shirt, or they'll be like, but I like your wigs better. And it's almost like, what makes you think that my hair is a wig just because I look so different from everyone? And it does become like the little, like, can I touch it, or like a poke to see how deep it goes in there. And I think that becomes like,
somebody didn't do that to you.
yeah, and it feels like they're like, can I see how it feels? But it becomes like a poke of how deep it is. And I feel like sometimes we become the chia pet of upstate New York, because it's just so different from just the regular urban Black people that we have over here, because they tend to keep their hair straight as well, or in a very tight ponytail. So this is definitely very different to them overall, So I definitely have those kind of issues.
How have you handled people putting their hands on you like that?
Well, I
because I know Tyann personally. I don't think that would go over very well compared to Lady, who's a little bit more, happy-go-lucky, energetic. Like, how did that go over, T?
I think that working now, I think with children, I think it set a different personality for me, because I just think that I became a very big example for kids to say, hey, you can grow up in this urban environment, but you can still be professional. But with that, I think that I grew up tough. So I had those personal barriers around myself. But then also that created a lot of isolation, I would say, where you weren't able to conversate with a lot of individuals, and then you didn't get to know so much about yourself. So when I had to teach children and kids how to grow up and be like, hey, it's all right to be natural or be this ethnic or be this urban, I think I had to embrace a little bit more about myself. So when people do touch me like that, I see the kids like look at me like, Tyann, what are you gonna do? And I'm just like, well, remember, everyone has personal boundaries, and that's really what I have to tell. Like, you should ask permissions to touch, and I think that I use those lessons that I want to teach kids to be like, you should just never let someone touch your body. It's good to ask for a hug. It's good to ask, just the same way you should ask someone to touch their hair. And then I guess the adult gets the point, because someone's like, you want to teach those boundaries for everybody. So I try to make it a lesson.
Wow, I love that. That's excellent, because you are role modeling the way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that children are little adults, and they're more receptive. And I think that as much as, especially in the education field, you think that, your eyes to be watching them, but you have 400 people watching one person. So either way, you're really the one they're looking up to. So I think that's always very important to be the right example for that.
Lady, do you have a story you want to share, or?
Well, for me, when those questions arise, I try to engage them in conversation. Like I mentioned before, I even sometimes allow them to touch my hair. I'm not too overprotective about my hair. I feel that when they touch and they see that it's real and that it can actually be soft as well, I feel like that gives them an opportunity to learn a little bit more. But, it's not going to be a stranger. It's someone that, I've seen around, or someone that I've worked with, because I've heard people say, oh, you look better when your hair was straight. It looked longer. It looked like, you looked better like that. And, and I always say, that's nice. I appreciate that you liked it that way, but I personally like it this way better. I hope you can see it later on. It will get, long, and it will get more, but this is how I like it. So it's just engaging in conversation. I feel like it's very important.
Oh, you guys are so mature about all of this. I mean, this is really good, because you could really take a different tactic and a different approach that would decrease your executive presence at work. It would decrease your ability to command the room, because people will make the B word, like, oh, she's so bitchy about her hair, or she's got an attitude, or she's got a chip on her shoulder, when really in reality, they are crossing your personal boundary. And I know it's a burden on us to always have to be the bigger people. Yeah. And some people might disagree with me that we shouldn't always be the bigger people, but I actually personally believe that my behavior will never be put into question. Never. Because in the end, people who are not behaving in the proper way will show their true colors, and everyone will, their lack of professionalism in the workplace will come out. Like, I believe in karma, and those things will show their ugly heads, and then you will still be able to command the room because your behavior has never been in question. You've always maintained tact. You've always maintained a lesson in how you talk to people, like what Tyann said. Oh, you should always ask people permission, because you're really role modeling the way for your students. And that is a way of not embarrassing the adult, right? Of kind of like bringing the adult into the conversation in a way that isn't threatening to them. Because at work, people feel threatened sometimes.
Yeah, I think in the educational setting too, I think it's a little bit different when you're into fashion and in the magazines, because your population is so diverse. And I think that sometimes we don't have that much diversity. So a big part of responsibility is to build that cultural competence. But I was in a situation where I was in that forum, you know, my friend was ready to be like, oh, hell no. And I was like, listen, that one hell no will put us back into a subgroup that you don't want to be. And when you're the only two people of color here, I said, I can't have that, because we're the two, you're in charge of central registration and I'm an attendance officer. So we're district-wide individuals. So I think that responsibility also is also to break that stigma that certain, only because you're of a certain ethnicity or background, that you're going to act a certain way. So it also goes to show that you have to build that cultural competence and be like, hey, we're not all the same, but we all have a lot of similar values as well. And I think that one wrong snap will just put you in that whole negative, and then you become those just hate words that, you know, no one really wants to hear. And then you will get that kind of character, because someone's like, whoa, that's a pretty offensive word you just called me, you know.
I'm so proud of you. I've known Tyann since she was like 18, 19. So I'm like, oh my God, who is this woman? It's fantastic. I'm so proud. That's great.
And I think something she said about the way that you respond can put you, can kind of take you back a few steps, right? I think it's the same way with what we're talking about as far as how to dress yourself and how to present yourself. Because, you know, for example, my husband used to come home and tell me about when he would have a conversation with someone at his office. And, you know, she would come in and she'd have a legitimate, you know, bona fide grievance or information that she wanted to share. But he was like, I was just so distracted by her cleavage. Like, it was just, he's like, I couldn't believe it. And he was like, he had to tell himself, keep your eyes straight ahead, Torch, keep your eyes straight ahead. Don't look down. So in his mind, he's going through, you know, he's not listening to what she's saying. Mm-hmm. He's trying to talk to, you follow what I'm saying? So he was distracted by her endowed bosom that he couldn't benefit from the information that she was trying to share. And so I think the bottom line is, whether it's how you handle people that want to touch your hair and invade your personal space, or it's the way that you want to package yourself and present yourself in the workplace, you don't want to do things that are going to set you back, right? The whole aim is for us to progress and move forward and to learn the quote unquote rules, I guess, so that we can, you know, be at the table.
Yeah. And I know there's some conversation about authenticity around all of this.
Yeah.
And what Jody says about the rules are really important. You have to know the rules before you decide to consciously break them. Yes. Because if you're breaking rules without knowing what they are, you just look cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Right.
You know? So once you know the rules, then you make decisions. I mean, I watch a lot of HGTV. And so they're always talking about, you know, these are the rules, you know, to get the eye and the feng shui and, you know, the visual triangle. Mm-hmm. You can break that rule once you're consciously aware of where things should go and how things should work. Competence trumps authenticity.
Yeah.
Be authentic as you want, as long as you're competent, right? Because in the end, you have to know what the heck you're doing in that job.
Oh, yes,
and you know, so absolutely. Maybe you make a decision to dye your hair back to black from green for the interview. And then once they know that no one else can do that job the way you can do it, dye it back to green.
Right.
Again, I get a lot of pushback on that kind of advice because people are like, oh, then I'm being fake. And I say, no, you're not being fake. You're adapting to your environment. We need to survive. We need jobs. We need benefits.
Yes.
To get in the door. And if you're going into an industry that maybe not so receptive to your creativity and your authenticity yet, then you might have to reconsider going into the way you're going to go into that interview. Now, if you absolutely cannot live with that, then you're going to have to do some extra research to ensure that you're interviewing at companies that will accept you in your full authentic self. And that's perfectly fine. That's a conscious decision that you make.
Right.
And that's perfectly acceptable. But if you think you're going to go into JP Morgan Chase and that is your dream to be a financial and whatever, I'm so not in corporate, whatever the titles are, But you can imagine it's a much more conservative field. You're dealing with millions of dollars. If you think that the guys from Shark Tank are going to want to work with someone that is less conventional in their appearance and in their dress, then you may have to kind of rethink that, you know? So I just think that we make these personal decisions, and as long as we're fully educated and have done all of our research on whatever company we want to interview with, then fine, go be your authentic self. Mm-hmm. But be prepared to not get the job and not have a chip on your shoulder for that, because they have a right to have the culture they want to have, just like you have a right to have green hair. You know, and I'm just using that facetiously as a very extreme example. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I think it's important for all of us who are always, you know, we're always looking for work. There's a woman that I know and really admire in higher ed. Her name is Terry Bump, and she's always saying, you're always looking for work. You're always looking for that next level opportunity. Mm-hmm. And you just have to be ready for those no's if it's all about your authenticity. But I say competence trumps authenticity. You could be very authentic and not know what the heck you're doing.
Very true.
You know, but once you know what you're doing and the people who you work for know that you know what you're doing, they'll let you come into work in a potato sack because you're making the money, right. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and there's no question that the job is going to be excellent. So I want to open this up to questions. If anybody has any questions, you type a Q and then your question. And in Shantae, if you're still here, can you re-type your question, because the thing scrolled up and I can't figure out how to get it. She had a question for you, Jody, about how to, and I hope she's still on, how to accentuate a bustier top in, I know you talked about the colors, but can you maybe go a little further on that? Oh, how do you handle styling and cleavage?
Okay, so in the workplace, I think it's important. I think that when you have a bosom, first thing, got to have a good bra, right? Let's just go there. You got to have the right foundation garments. And if that's, good bra, if that's Spanx, whatever you got to do, go ahead and handle your business, okay? Because if the undergarment, if the foundation is wrong, everything else is going to be wrong, right? All right, so good bra. I like wrap tops. I like V-neck. I like scoop neck. Just not with the stuff coming up and out.
Did you say wrap scoop? What is that?
Wrap tops. You ever seen the shirts that kind of overlap?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So wrap shirt. I like V-neck. I like scoop neck. If you have a bosom, I think that the key is that you're not letting the girls all the way out.
You're not spilling.
I think that's the difference. If you happen to have on something that is a little low cut and you know that you have cleavage at work, I would say put on a camisole underneath it or a bandeau or something underneath it that doesn't give people, you don't want to end up getting a reaction like my husband gave to the woman at his office, where they're so distracted by the girls that they're not listening to you, right? So just be mindful of when you stand in front of the mirror, you see if you're giving cleavage or not. You can tell. And if you see cleavage, that means everybody else can see cleavage. And you want to make sure that you're not giving people reason to disregard you, to not hear you, to ignore you for reasons other than what you look like. So I think that's how I would answer that question.
Should you wear necklaces if you're busty?
Yeah.
Like, does that bring attention up here? Like,
well, okay. When you say necklaces, do you mean things that hang low or?
Either.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Chantel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great
nice
to meet you.
Ladies through.
Bye.
I don't have any other questions on here, but what if you have both curls and curves?
That's extra attention.
Yeah.
That's extra attention. Okay. One way or the other. Okay.
I wanted to add in that there's a new process that's being used. Like now, there's a huge natural hair. A lot of women are wearing their hair natural now.
Movement, yeah.
There's a new movement with a lot of women that are realizing that their hair is beautiful naturally as well. And there's a new process where when you're styling your hair, if you're a lawyer, if you work for JP Morgan, where you can actually, when you're doing your hair, when you're leaving it to dry, you can actually brand it with, how do you call well, what you do is you elongate your curls by branding it by sustaining it with like a pin or
bobby pin.
Bobby pin, and what it does, it elongates your curls just to tame it, and make it a little bit more presentable, so that you're not attracting too much attention to yourself. Because you can't, sometimes when you're a lawyer and you're showing up to the courtroom, you want to be able to show off your curls, but also make sure that they look professional enough.
You have two questions. One is, what about transitioning your natural hair? Like, how does it, so in Lady's case, she just chopped it all off and started from scratch. But are there other strategies? Like, that seems like an extreme for some folks. So what would you do during the transition? That's the first question. And the second question is there an answer to this? What is acceptable in the workplace? And can the workplace really comment on your hair? I don't know. I don't know the legalities of it. I don't know policy. Some places have dress codes. So you have to pay attention to all of that first. Like, what is your job's dress code? But I don't know. I don't know that anybody can tell you can't wear curls to work. Like, I can't imagine seeing that in an HR manual. But what about people who don't want to chop it all off and want to do a transition? Do you have any tips for that?
Absolutely. Before I chopped it all off, I was hesitant about it. I was really thinking about it. So I did transition for just a little tiny bit until I got really tired of it and just chopped it all off. So what I did was that I stopped completely blow drying my hair. I put no heat on my hair whatsoever. And what I would do is I would twist it a lot. And I would do a lot of twists, leave it overnight, and just do a lot of natural hairstyles that are protective and that protected the curl pattern that's about to come. So little by little, what occurs is you use sulfate-free shampoos. You start co-washing them, making sure that you're oiling the scalp to make sure that you maintain the curl pattern that it's about to come out. And little by little, once you see that transition, you'll start noticing that half your hair will be extremely curly, then the rest of your hair, which is the bottom part of your hair, will look straighter. Once you start realizing that most of your hair is curlier than the straight part, then you can go ahead and you can chop it off little by little, or you can just chop it off to meet where it is transitioning.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of work.
Right.
It is worth it. It's something that I do feel liberated after doing that. I feel like I am more myself, and I am coming into terms with my roots. I do have African roots, and I know that this is something that's really, really changed my life for the better. Just being able to wear my hair exactly how it grows.
So there's an identity. There's an identity development aspect to all of this. Not to get too technical and psychological, but that's what kind of. I think that's important to this conversation. It's what makes this conversation not superficial, right? We're not just talking about what the latest color of the month is or what the latest hair product is. Right. This all goes to our identity, to how people view us in the workplace, and to how we're going to educate people in the workplace about the beauty of difference.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's interesting you mentioned that, because now that I am natural, I find myself being stuck in situations where I stand up for myself more, because I am more confident with how I look, how I feel, and I'm leveled with where I come from. So it just makes a lot more sense right now to me. Like, I can stand up for anyone that feels that they've been reprimanded or they feel like they're being put down for how they look. So for me, it's very empowering and liberating. You wanted to add something?
I just think that the whole straightening part is just that bubble of what seems to be acceptable, and I do notice it's just a natural thing, but I would say in the phase of transitioning for it, I think it would be with lady too, not applying the heat, which is something that I think you're born and raised to be like this, have that straight hair and not go through that process, because it is hard to manage curly hair, you know, and you have to get ready to deal with the knots and the frizz, and, you know, maybe you may have one flat side and one other side. So I think it's just being able to embrace it, you know. I had to do it long for curly, long time. And that's it. Once it gets so tangled, you just don't want to manage it no more. You just chop it. And it's just like, I just don't want to deal with this no more. And I think for me, because I have 3 brothers, I mean, when I was young and I had this hair, I was called like Medusa, and I was called like Orange Marmalade and all kinds of stuff. So it was very hard to be like, oh, am I going to go back to that childhood fear? But once I think you accept the power of I am, like, you know, I'm just this person and this is who I am. I don't think there's anything else that goes with that, you know, to combat that. So I think it's very liberating to that extent as well, where you have no more worries.
Well, what's so interesting is I'm here worried about all of you in the workplace, but what you two are talking about is discrimination in your homes. You know?
Right. It's true.
And those aggressions aren't micro. They're actually very in your face, because your family can say whatever they want to you. You know, so I find this extremely telling of just Latino households and Latino culture, and this need to deny that one drop or those 10 drops of Black blood that we may or may not have. And a lot of times it does come out in our hair or in how we tan or whatever the case might be. But that's a whole nother show, right? Because that can really mess with your head around your identity development, particularly in our young people. So Tyann, you work in an urban environment. You know, I'm here in New York City or in the DC area. There's a large number of Latinos coming into all of our areas. And there are Black populations in those areas already. And if we have to worry about people liking us or not liking us because our hair is curly or straight, we're in deep trouble, because we have more important things to do. We have bigger fish to fry. We have to learn the Common Core. We got to learn Common Core and algebra, and they're not, you know, our kids are not competing. They're not getting into the colleges and universities, and it's because they're so worried about this other stuff, you know, that seems so unimportant. I mean, we want to know what's under the hair, right? What's in the brain? What can we help you with in your lives? Not you know, focusing on the fact that your hair should be straight and long and whatever. It should look more like Sofia Vergara than I don't know who's out there. I can't even think, because I don't watch that much TV anymore. But I think for me, it's really it's very profound to hear you talk about being discriminated against or bullied or name called in the household that you're supposed to be safe in.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
I think it brings up the eternal fears of like that hopeful like mirror too, because then it's like, what am I supposed to be? But I think it brings that fear, and then it's every question that you ask to fear, like, what if I get made fun of? What if I stand out and I'm not like everyone else? But the whole point is that you want to be an authentic person, because that's what's going to attract people to a leader. I mean, a leader is an individual that's going to stand out and it's going to draw a crowd. But if you look like everyone else, then you might as well just stand in the crowd too. So I think that once you get self-confidence, you kind of just attract that energy to yourself. And I think people naturally just see that when there is no worries, you kind of could just be successful, because you're focusing on what you can do and not what you can't do anymore.
Right. And I do want to say, in terms of the hair situation, my hair used to be more like Tyann's, but due to childbirth and illness, I've lost a lot of my curl, and it's more like this wave that you see now. And let me tell you, you appreciate things when you don't have them anymore, because there was no natural hair movement when I was your age or when I was in college and I was up there blowing it out. You know, my arm was killing me blowing out that thick hair. And now it's no problem, because my hair has gotten thinner. My curls have dropped more. And so, you know, the grass is always greener on the other side, as they say.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing that I think Jody, Lady, Tyann have said tonight is, because we're, you know, it's 2 minutes to 10, is really that there's a level of confidence that comes out in you when you feel you're at your best self. You know, when you know you are rocking that outfit because you bought the proper size. And I know that not everyone can afford this yet, but a tailor is your friend.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Because they can't make clothing, oh, this is a size 8 pair, a size 8 triangle, a size 8 apple. They don't do that. It's a size 8, ija. It's a size 8.
Yeah.
But if it's a higher quality level of clothing, a tailor could really be your best friend in making that outfit or that dress or that blouse fit the pear part of your body or the hourglass part of your body.
Exactly.
And I know that a lot of young people can't afford tailors right now, but let me tell you, my tailor is not that expensive. So, you know, do a little, it's kind of like you got to shop around a little bit. But also as you get older and as you get higher up in your career, for example, my clothes are now a little bit, I tend to buy higher quality clothing that require dry cleaning because of where I'm at in my job and the people that I have to meet with. So then it's worth it for me to have a tailor because I want to make sure I'm walking into that room and I'm commanding it. I'm commanding that room and people want to talk to me and people want to listen to me because I don't look a hot mess, you know.
Commanding for the right reason.
For the right reasons, right? So something that I like to say is there's 3 things that can happen when you walk into a room. Everyone can look at you because you look like a hot mess. Like, what the heck is that? Don't let them sit at my table.
Yes.
You can walk into a room and absolutely nobody notices. You don't want that either. Or you can walk into a room and they part like the Red Sea.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Yes.
We want people to part like the Red Sea. We want people to say, who is that? How do I get to know that person? How can I network with that person? How can I be like that person? That's what you want to happen when you walk into the room.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's 10:01, so I don't want to keep people any later on a weeknight, but, you know, I'm happy to take any final questions for like another minute or two. But I do want to just say a couple of, I guess, while people are typing questions, if they have any, if anyone is in the New York City area, I'm having an event. Latinas in Higher Education is having a signature event on January 15th. It's called the Breakfast of Champions, and it focuses on challenges and opportunities that Latinas are facing in academia. And this year's speaker, her name is Dr. Angelica Perez Litwin, and she's going to be talking about how to manage your career like an entrepreneur. And it's only $10, and that's really just to pay for your breakfast. It's at NYU. It was a great event last year. I anticipate it'll be a great event again this year. So I invite any of you to actually attend. I'm going to be doing this show the last Thursday of every month. So next month's show is a continuation of this conversation, but it's going to be more specific about what to wear to work. And it's called Pumps and Stilettos. So my pitch there is that pumps and stilettos can live in the same closet. You just have to know when to pull them out, which one's out. Right? So you don't want to wear the red 5-inch stilettos to the Christmas party at the CEO's house or at the office. But you could have them in the bag for the after party at the club, you know? So it's going to be, I'm hoping to get some folks in the fashion industry who work with clothing that is professional based clothing. And that should be a fun one too. I think this was kind of a fun one. And that one will take this conversation to like a part 2 level.
Right.
In March, the conversation is going to be about soliciting, giving, and receiving feedback. And I think that's also a continuation of this because sometimes when someone does give us feedback about how we look or how we're behaving at work, we might take it in a really bad way and respond improperly, or we're not getting any feedback at all. So we have no idea how we're doing. And that's because studies have shown that supervisors, particularly white supervisors, are very hesitant to give women and men of color feedback if it's not all good. They are scared of being called racist. They're scared of being sued. Even if they're coming from a good place, there's still that culture of fear around providing feedback to people of color. And there's studies that have shown this, you know. And I can share some of those resources when we have that show. And then the April show is going to be about how to choose your personal board of directors. So who are the people on your shoulders? you should not have little devils on your shoulder at all. They should all be angels who are looking out for you. You should have a sponsor. You should have a couple of mentors. You should have an advisor, and you should have your best girlfriend. But your best girlfriend is not the one who you always have to go to. So how do you choose those people? Who should they be? What traits should they have? So that's the April show. And then I've stopped there. I'm waiting for suggestions or some brainstorm. But, you know, I'm hoping that this is something that people enjoy. For those of you who are willing to give feedback, you can send me an email. You can send me something at Higher Latinas and and follow me on Twitter. My email is Roseanne517, and there's no E's in Roseanne, ROSANN 517 at Gmail. Good, bad, indifferent. I want to hear the feedback because I don't want to waste anybody's time. So if this is something that people would like to see happen again, I'm going to do it. I'm happy to do it. If people hate it, then they hate it and I move on to the next project. There is a comment on the side, and this is from Lamis Vargas. I would like to add, as for my workforce, and she put government in parentheses, I embrace my walk and work the room with confidence. Wearing the right attire within my career and makeup, and I guess wearing the right makeup, it takes a load off. Self-confidence, though, but it's all about self-assurance and embracing who you are.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that. Thank you for saying that. I want to thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for being here, for staying up a little later if this is normally your bedtime. This was a lot of fun. And so again, Jody Johnson, thank you.
Thank
Lady
you.
Santos, thank you. And Tyann Chavez, thank you. Happy New Year to all of you. And I hope to see you in a month at the next Command the Room web series.
You got it.
Absolutely.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Nice meeting you.
You too.
Hi, Roseanne.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.
I'm all grown up now, you see?
No, people are still listening to you shouting over there. But thank you guys so much.
Relax.